Nightmare Real, and you're watching Mission Boxing Today on YouTube.
Heavyweight boxing fans, what's the deal? All right, so BoxingScene.com, they sat down with Deontay Wilder, did an interview with him, and I will leave this article in the description box. You can read this whole interview. But one of the questions they asked him, I want to just do a video on it real quick, and they asked him if you could press a button and get any fight or fights done, what would they be? What does the agenda look like? And Deontay Wilder responded, he says, I wouldn't even push a button. I just have my remote control as if I was the remote control car. I'm going to guide myself to each and every fight. After this fight, I'm looking to go after Joseph Parker. I think Joseph Parker will beat Hughie Fury. I'm going after that belt. I may have a mandatory after that, whoever it may be. I'm going to get rid of him, and at the end of the year, I'm looking to have the winner of Joshua and Klitschko, if they still have the belt at that time. That's how my year is going to go. All right. Now, with just what he's saying, all right, if he beats Gerald Washington, he wants Joseph Parker. Now, we just heard, and I'm trying to follow this as closely as possible. The last I heard from Joseph Parker and his team, rather, it was, what's the dude from Duco Events? What's the promoter's name? Not Dean Lornigan, but the other guy. I forget the guy's name. The other promoter guy that's with Duco. Him. Is it Higgins? I believe it's Dave Higgins. But he came out and said that instead of Wilder, which they said that they wanted to unify with Wilder, they now switched it and said they want a Joshua unification fight instead of Wilder. But we have to wait. Joshua might lose to Vladimir, although I'm favoring him in that fight. There's a possibility he could lose that fight, man. So we just can't bank on Joshua's going to be available. But I understand where Higgins and they're coming from. They'll make more money fighting Joshua than they would Wilder. And in some people's opinion, Joshua may be a bigger challenge than Deontay Wilder. And if he was to fight Joshua, would be a unified champion. When they get in the ring that night, they can bring 3 belts together in one night. You know what I mean? Whereas Wilder just has one belt, the WBC. All right, but with all that said, though, Deontay Wilder is being persistent about a fight with Joseph Parker. So if Parker, if this Joshua thing doesn't come about, or he, if that fight happens, I'm cool with it. But if that fight doesn't come about, or Joshua chooses to, because if he wins the fight against Klitschko, he's going to have to get a mandatory in there somewhere with the WBA. Some people think it won't happen. Hearn's not going to let him fight Ortiz. Some people think he will let him fight Ortiz because it's an in-house fight. Some people think differently, that why would Hearn do that? So, and Hearn will want 2 title holders versus a guy that's a title holder and just another guy that's just his contender, or his mandatory. You know what I mean? And they think they want to put Ortiz the Wilder route. And I think that's a possibility. Being that Ortiz said he will fight Stavern for that mandatory, man. So that's a possibility. And I think he may lose his mandatory WBA if he goes ahead and fulfills a WBC. That interim fight. I'm not sure on that. But what I will say, though, is Wilder wants Parker. So, like I'm saying, man, if you can't get Joshua, that fight doesn't come about, you can't say that, there's nobody out there that wants to fight you. Although I've never really heard them say that, but Wilder wants a unification fight if he gets past Washington. And I think Wilder knows that going into this, and I'm going off if he beats Washington. I think he understands that not only what he wants, us as fans want to see him in there with the Parkers, the Joshuas, the Klitschkos, those type of names next. Not next year, not when the time is right, next. And then he said after that, then he'll, take on the mandatory. Because I believe he's thinking how I am. I think the WBC, it's hard to say what they're going to do, obviously, but I think they're going to make an interim fight. And we don't want to just see Wilder just waiting around for the winner. I mean, we want him to stay active, especially if it's a unification fight. You know what I mean? So we really want him to get that in. But This what it has to be. Mandatory or unification next. And he knows that. You know what I mean? So I know a lot of people, they're very impatient. Look, man, we got 4 days left, y'all. Just 4 days left until fight night. And trust me, if after this fight, if there's any, any of those fights that he's talking about are not made and it's his fault, he'll get the criticism. Now, if guys are just saying they want to fight him, but, finding ways and reasons not to, there's not really much he can do when guys do that. And we'll be able to see if it happens. Trust me. That's why I'm just going to sit back, kick my feet up, man, let all this just play out. All of it's going to play out. Either we're going to see these big fights, or we're going to see one side or the other, whoever you're rooting for or not rooting for, it doesn't matter. One side or the other, moonwalk out of fights. You know what I mean? Moonwalk out of negotiations to take on lesser challenges. Not even to take on guys that are just equally as tough or tougher. No, lesser challenges. You know what I mean? Once we start seeing that, then we'll be able to say, okay, this dude's ducking this dude, or this dude doesn't want this fight, or this dude really doesn't want to unify, or this. And I'm talking about I'm not just talking about Wilder, I'm talking about everybody. Well, Joshua's fighting Klitschko, so obviously he does want to unify. His fucking unification fight. But I'm talking about Parker and Wilder. Once they get done, and I know Parker has a fight coming up with Huey, so I guess more after his fight we'll really see what's going to go on, especially after April, man. Once April's done, then we'll really see what's going to go on with this division, man. But you guys let me just think about what Wilder had to say in the comments section. I'm out.